With a song in my heart, the story of men and their music, of men who really had a song in their hearts.
Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la, with a tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, with a tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
And to find the composer of that number, we must go back to the very early part of this century, for it was written by one of England's greatest melody makers of his era, Paul Rubens. Yes, Paul Rubens came along with the most famous of all English theatrical producers, George Edwards, the original George Edwards. Paul's first musical comedy songs to be used in a George Edwards show happened way back in 1902, when the English stage was supreme. Composer Lionel Monckton had written a fine score for Edwards' latest brainchild, but the discerning producer wasn't quite satisfied. He was talking to his business manager, J.A. Malone.
You know, Malone, Monckton's written some grand tunes for the new show, but we could still do with another waltz song.
And won't Monckton give you one?
Not won't, old boy. Can't's the word. No, Lionel's written himself out for this show.
Well, Governor, what about giving that young lad Rubens a chance? Paul Rubens.
Rubens? You mean the boy who wrote some words for some interpolated numbers?
Yes, but although he hasn't submitted any of his music to you, I can tell you he has great possibilities.
All right. Send him to me. I'll discuss the plot with him.
And that's how Rubens got his first big break. For he wrote two special songs for one of the grandest musical comedies ever staged, The Country Girl. One of these numbers was the clever little comedy song, Chick, Chick, Chick. The other, the haunting waltz, Coo. And we'll have a memory of it right now.
Hark to that sound of coo, of coo, of coo, calling for me and you, for me and you. Whether through darkest storm we go, or under skies of blue, nothing shall save her. I will be ever true to my Whether through darkest storm we go, or under skies of blue, nothing shall save her. I will be ever true to my
That particular song proved to be one of the big hits of The Country Girl, and helped to solidly establish young Rubens as a class purveyor of melodies. His first big success as both lyric writer and composer was a show called Three Little Maids, which starred the famous Edna May. Billy Burke was also in the cast. By this time, Paul was a top-ranking songwriter in his own right. He had ideas, too, one of which he put up to another leading entrepreneur of the day, Frank Curzon.
They tell me you're looking for a new musical comedy, Frank.
Yeah, that's 100% correct, Paul. You got an idea?
Yes, I have, and I think it's a good one. We've had musicals about mythical kingdoms in pretty well every place you can think of.
Yes, I'm with you there. We've had the geisha. That locale was Japan.
And the girls of Gothenburg, that was Germany. Toreador took us somewhere else. But one place hasn't been touched. One of the most colorful spots in the world.
Huh? Where's that?
Holland. The land of canals, tulips, the Zuyder Zee, and those lovely little Dutch girls.
By Jove, Paul, I think you're on the right track. Let's look into it. Toot sweet.
And from that interview came another of the great musical comedies of all time, the colorful and glamorous Miss Hook of Holland. Every melody was a winner. As a reminder, do you recall these tunes from that sparkling show? First, the scintillating A Little Pink Petty.
Little pink patty from Peter, and a little blue patty from John, and I've one green and yellow from some other fellow, and one that I haven't got on. I've one made of lovely red flannel that came from an Amsterdam store, but the point that I'm at is that underneath that, well, I haven't got on any more. A little pink patty from Peter, and a little blue patty from John, and I've one green and yellow from some other fellow, and one that I haven't got on. I've one made of lovely red flannel that came from an Amsterdam store. If I meet a new friend, where on earth will it end? I shall never get in at the door.
And, of course, the charming and haunting Sleepy Canal.
By the side of the sleepy canal, you and I, 'neath the sky, as the barges go on their way to the stars
was a gay, light-hearted young man who took his great success with a real modesty. Although his melodies are looked upon today as classics in their sphere, he always regarded them as jingles. As a matter of fact, he was chided on this very fact by one of England's dramatic critics.
Paul, you've given the English theatre one of its finest productions in your Miss Hook of Holland.
Well, from a cold-hearted critic like you, James, that's real praise.
Yes, but that's on the credit side. On the debit side, I want to know why you insist on calling your lyrics jingles and your melodies tunes. Damn it, it's sacrilege to see your efforts programmed as jingles and tunes by Paul Rubens.
But my dear James Agate, they are jingles and tunes. That's how I feel about them.
I quote that little chat to convey to you how really unassuming Paul Rubens was. For with Lionel Monckton, he shared the honor of being England's greatest musical comedy writer of the day. And he followed up Miss Hook with another sensational hit, The Balkan Princess. The big hit from this operetta was, of course, Dear Delightful Women.
Women are really most beautiful things. I'm quite sincere. You're a dear. Women are angels without any wings. Girls, am I right?
You're too polite.
I fear I cannot embrace more than two, one in each arm.
There is no harm.
Safety in numbers, they say, is it true? Say 9 or 10.
Live again.
Ladies, say when. Oh, you dear, delightful women, why I simply love you all. And I don't much care if you're dark or fair, if you're bad, if you're bold, if you're coy, if you're cold. For the fact remains you're women, gay or simple, short or tall. But I can't suggest which I love the best, for I love every one of you first of all.
Oh, you dear, delightful women, why I simply love you all. And I don't much care if you're dark or fair, if you're bad, if you're bold, if you're coy, if you're cold.
For the fact remains you're women, gay or simple, short or tall. But I can't suggest which I love the best, for I love every one of you best of all.
Paul Rubens was a typical product of the Edwardian era, and like most people of his time, lived a happy, carefree existence. His small flat where he resided was within sight of London's old Prince of Wales Theatre, where most of his works were produced. One of his best-loved ballads came to him whilst he was out dining with Phyllis Dare, one of the most beautiful and talented performers on the English stage.
Paul, where's that infectious smile of yours gone?
What's that, Phil? What did you say?
Oh, I thought so. You haven't even been listening to me.
I'm afraid I did wander a bit, Phil. And you know I'd sooner listen to you than anyone else in this wide, wide world.
Thanks for the compliment, darling. Tell me, what were you thinking?
Strangely, dear, of a melody. And it's still haunting me. I must jot it down.
And right then and there, he made some rough notes on his shirt cuff. Don't forget they wore starched linen in those days. A few days later, he called to his valet.
I say, Woods, I've just remembered I wrote a melody on my shirt cuff the other evening. See if you can find that shirt for me like a good chap.
Oh, but Mr. Paul, I can't.
Oh? Why not?
Well, I sent all your soiled linen to the laundry this morning.
Gods, for heaven's sake, Woods, to the laundry, quickly, and rescue that shirt. Why, an immortal melody might be lost to the world. Away with you.
Oh, yes, Mr. Paul, I'll hurry down.
Fortunately, the shirt was retrieved, notes and all, at the very brink of the washtub. Laundries were quick in those days, you know. And the song that was to triumph over the soapsuds charms us today. It was Rubens' I Love the Moon. Rubens went on his way contributing success after success to the English stage, and his shows were produced throughout the English-speaking world. But a serious illness was to catch up with him, which was to change the course of his life. He'd become engaged to Phyllis Dare, meanwhile, and after a visit to his doctor's, immediately called on her.
Paul, you didn't tell me you'd be out this afternoon.
No, dear, I was going to wait until this evening, but... Phil, I must sit down.
Paul, oh, what is it, dear? What's happened?
The doctors, they've just told me the cause of my illness. It's my lungs. I'm afraid I haven't got a great deal of time. You see, Phil, dear, I can never marry you now.
Oh, my darling, don't ever say that. Nothing can ever alter our love.
my dear.
Hush, my pet. Life for Phyllis and Paul goes on. Goes on as it always was, is, and always will be, darling.
And despite his affliction, these two lovers courageously carried on. It was a time when courage was needed, too. The year was 1914, when a power-drunk nation started a conflict that was to embroil the world. Rubens, although ill, immediately wrote a song, a recruiting song, at the request of the military authorities. And what a grand song it was. We don't want to lose you, but we think you ought to go.
Oh, we don't want to lose you, but we think you ought to go. For your king and your country both need you so. We will want you and miss you, but with all our might and main, we will hug you, bless you, kiss you when you come back again.
Oh, we don't want to lose you, but we think you ought to go. For your king and your country both need you so.
We will want you and miss you, but with all our might and main, we will hug you, bless you, kiss you when you come back
Paul Rubens was to die all too young. His passing left a gap in the ranks of English light composers which nobody to date has filled with the same grace. And he was as charming and pleasant and harmonious as his music. So we close his story with one of his melodies that's in keeping with his happier times. The lovely waltz song from his gay musical comedy, The Sunshine Girl. Here's to love and laughter.
Here's to love and laughter, never mind what comes after. If it be sorrow, let it wait until tomorrow. When bright eyes are glancing and your heart gaily dancing, laugh while you may, yes, and love while you can. So here's a health to
And so we reach the end of another composer's life story. Another man with a song in his heart. The artists reviving his memories were Douglas Kelly, Keith Hudson, Richard Davies, Betty Eames, Kathleen Goodall, Peggy MacDonald, Beulah Parker and the Parkettes, Max Blake and Horry Dargey's quartet. Your narrator was John Morgan. Orchestra and chorus under the baton of William Flynn. With a Song in My Heart was produced by Alfred Potter and scripted and directed by Jack O'Hagan.